Good morning, everybody. It's Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group at Remax Wilson. How are you today, Andrew?
I'm much better than you today, Jane. How are you? Dare I ask how you're doing?
I'm awesome.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. I like the Remax shirt. That's great. Always
Thanks.
on
I had them
brand.
made. What?
Oh, wow. Never too busy for your referrals. Okay, excellent. Excellent.
I
I
gave
think
them
I'm
away at a
gonna come up here
conference.
now to get a tattoo with that exact same thing. What do you think? No?
Maybe.
Nobody would ever see it though, because I'm 6'4", so it'd be like
Maybe a tie.
a tie with it. Yeah, I do have. A colleague of ours, Kent Deans, years ago gave me a tie, and it's got all houses all through it. It's a beautiful old tie, and I'm waiting to bring it out for a special occasion.
I love Kent. How is he doing?
He's doing okay, but he lost his wife a few months ago.
Oh,
So yeah. Anyway,
such a great guy.
yeah, he's a really, really good guy. He taught me a lot about real estate. He was one of my mentors when I first got licensed, and really appreciate him and have a lot of fond feelings for him. And I hope to catch up with him soon. Actually, that's actually a good reminder because we were talking about getting together for coffee or lunch soon.
He had a mind like a steel trap. He knew where every street was.
Every street, every transaction he'd ever done, every client he ever had, he remembers all the phone numbers for everybody. It's just incredible mind. Yeah.
Yeah, great person.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be doing our monthly market update for February of 2023. I hope I don't turn anybody off by having a voice like this.
It's amusing. Let's see. It'll be me next week, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so this March 6th, so the right-hand side here, March 6th, we had 66 so far this month, we've had 66 unconditional sales. 181 new listings come to market, which is a bit of a bump, I think, in new listings coming on. We've got 1,854 new listings, and if you compare that to the far right column, you can see in the full month of March, we had 833 new listings. That's still low on listings for, if we stay at this pace, we're only going to be at probably 240 listings, 250 listings. But I suspect we're going to get busier and busier as the month goes on.
I think you're reading the wrong thing.
What do you mean? So March 2020.
Sales. We had 66 sales. And
sorry. Oh, yes, 66. So 830. Yes, pardon me. I was saying listings. I'm talking about sales. So far, 66 sales. And based on that number, we're going to be like 250 if we stay on that per week, but maybe to 300. But I suspect we're going to see more and more sales coming as we move into spring. But that 833 number, I suspect, is going to be high that we had in 2022. We're not going to meet that number.
This is interesting, though, for February 2023 compared to February 2024.
Yep.
We're at 419 sales last month compared to 718 last year.
Yep.
And listings were down for 2023 in February, 742 compared to 932 in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. Active listings definitely up though, so that's good to see. Still needing inventory, and I've got lots of buyers who are just waiting for the right property. So a lot of people on the fence right now. Are you finding that?
I have a lot of sellers who are waiting to go, and I don't know, like sometimes it's just logistics, getting everything ready.
Logistics are a big part of it, of course.
And
okay, so March 6th now, again, the right-hand side, we've got 231 new listings that came live. How does this tie in with the, can you go back to the last slide?
I know, I find the numbers don't always correspond, so I don't get it.
181 new listings according to this one, and then if we go to the next one, you know what it is, and we should clarify what this is. We'll do some research, but it's going to be based on what we consider, what the search is considering the area of Victoria. So is this including all of the board's listings, which would include listings even some agents list properties up on the Gulf Islands or even up island. They're still board listings, but they're not what we would want to consider in the stats, or their Duncan or something. So anyway, okay. So 231 new listings came live so far today, March 6th, in this month. We've had 108. Actually, this is the last 7 days, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah. So 108 properties went pending, 64 price decreases, something we weren't seeing at all last year, hardly at all. 9 price increases, and yeah, 46 properties expired. One of mine will be probably included in that list next week.
And you're relisting it?
We'll probably relist it. It depends. There's some activity in the background, and we're going to wait and see what happens with that.
So just a tip to realtors, expire rather than cancel your listing because you're still covered under the contract. But
Well,
this is a great ratio of
that's a
pending.
beautiful nuance, but we won't get into the details of that. If you have questions and you're a realtor watching, just call us and ask.
Um, a great ratio of pending to new listings, so that shows that we're
Yes.
almost at 50% there.
Yes, absolutely. And let's see, new listings last the same week like a week last month. Way more listings came on, which is interesting actually, because I'm expecting to see more and more listings as we move into spring.
I think it's because if you look at where the dates land,
Yeah,
um, and also I think a lot of people make decisions after they go away for things like Family Day and stuff like that. I think a lot of activity happens after those weekends.
that's true. And there's a lot of times where people, yeah, do push off by a week or two around holidays and so forth. So, and what's going on in the weather, even. So, okay. Do we want to get into more details? Yeah, let's go into this. Okay. This
I'll
is,
I'll start us off. So single family homes, we were at 1.150 2 years ago.
mm,
We peaked last April, single family homes at 1.450, and now we're back down to 1.25, between 1.25 and 1.3. I was explaining this to
mm,
somebody and they're like, "Whoa!"
yeah.
But it all has to do with supply and demand.
Absolutely. And I've been saying we're back to 2021 pricing, although that's not exactly true. Actually, yes, it is. We're back to 2021 pricing, not the lowest of the 2021 pricing, though we hit that again in November. We've come up a bit since then, which is interesting because my impression was that prices were going down. And if you look at the board stats that they've been outputting, they said, they're down 5% over last month kind of thing. I see this as popping up, so I'm confused again.
Well, I think if you look at it in the long term, you'll see a straight line. Like if the trend over time is a straight line.
Hmm.
Right now, this year, or since July last year,
Average,
but
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, if we look at the trend, but people say to me, "So what are we going to do when prices have come down?" I'm like, "They've already come down."
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we're not looking at, I mean, it's possible. I've got clients that have contacted me and they said, we've been looking at all the media and we're reading about this pending recession, and we think we're going to hold off because maybe we'll do better if we wait. But what I'm seeing in the marketplace is, and hearing in the marketplace is, there's more multiple offers and prices appear to be supported by the listing prices getting supported by the buyers. It's not a free fall by any means. It's more of close to equal. And we've reached probably peak interest rates, maybe one more hike, but probably not. I don't know for sure. So hopefully we can just only go back to steady and maybe up.
Yeah, well, I think, and we'll talk about this later, but I think the fact, if you look last year, considering all the rate increases that we had,
Yeah.
the fact that the prices remain steady says something.
If we hadn't had the rate increases, the prices would have continued up and that and up and up
Yeah,
and up. And we
I
are
think
experiencing rise of prices, inflation in all kinds of areas. But because of these higher interest rates, I think it has had this impact, and it could continue to have that impact because the results of those increases tend to be felt further down the road.
yeah.
Um, but it could be that it just leveled the pricing instead of continuing to go up, and that's the thing people don't really. They're expecting it to really bring everything down, but it could be that it just stopped it from going up.
Well, it did, like you see, from May to July, there was a significant drop from 1.4 to 1.2. So there was a significant drop there, but
It
then
is, yeah.
anyway, people
But
tend to,
but too, the people tend, like sellers, of course, the sellers that bought in, let's say, February or March 2022, they're not immediately selling again. And so they're not, if they were to try to sell, they would be trying not to lose any money and probably wouldn't put their home up for sale. Or if they did, they would be waiting to put it up for when the prices come higher. People who haven't had that quote loss, but have seen a lot of appreciation because they bought, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years ago, they can afford to sell at a profit, but still lower than the peak of 2022.
Yeah.
But we will reach a point where sellers, if they're not going to get what they need to get, won't be selling. And that's the difference. And that's what the buyers don't seem to really get is there's a lot, it's a lot easier to put upward pressure on prices. It's a lot harder to put downward pressure on prices
Yeah.
because sellers just won't sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're seeing the same thing with condos. We're still up over 2 years, at around 25,000
Mm.
year over 2 years, but we're down from last year where we were around 675. So we're at just below 600,000 this year, and prices have been steady over the last 6 months.
Yeah, you can see some bumping around, but that can be due to, a number of lower priced units selling or higher priced units selling in any given month.
Or
When you see,
seasonal.
yeah, or seasonal. So when you see kind of more jumping around, which we always comment on the townhouse slide, there's a lot less sales, so it gets a lot more granular and a lot more jumpy. You don't have the rounded curves.
Yeah, December is typically a low time of the year too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, true. Kind of almost discount December and um, these drops that you see December because there's always that bounce back in early of the next year.
Okay, so moving on to row townhouses.
Mm.
So we've come year over 2 years. We're at 675, and we're up around 800,000. And as you were saying, it's granular because there's less townhouses that sell,
Mhm.
but we are seeing a bit of a downward trend, and I would say, but fairly steady over the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably closer to like that bounce up. I think we're probably closer to 750 than the eight, just because of averages and based on what I'm seeing from that graph and how it would compare to the other graphs we've been seeing. But it's just again, there could have been a couple of really expensive units sold.
Yeah. Okay. So I decided to do the totals after we went through the different particulars.
Mhm.
Um, so what we're looking at here is the total new listings are these are new listings are the bars, and the line is the total sales. So what you can do is look at the ratios of each of these, and we see a typical um, uh, peak in the spring market, and I'm not seeing that we're heading there just yet, actually. And then sales tend to follow that.
But we do have sales rising from, actually they went, it's interesting because we usually see December as the lowest point for sales and January a bit of a bump up, but we were on a downward trend after December. We went from sort of a peak in October 2022 to less sales in November, less sales in December, and even less sales in January, which is uncommon. We usually see a bump in January, but now we see this bump in February, and we'll definitely see a bump, I think, in March.
And I think that's the first December in a long time where we haven't outsold the number of new listings.
Right.
That's real.
Yeah.
So I got my clients some deals in December.
Good for you. Yeah. It's a funny time because people, if they're selling, it's because they have to sell, and sometimes and buyers are sometimes distracted with life and family and seasonal activities, and weather. So you can sometimes find yourself something before somebody else has gone through it, which is great if you're working with buyers who are looking for a special property or a deal.
So this February number I find very interesting because usually it's larger than the January number.
Mhm.
But I guess people were looking to see what was happening in January. And because of the relatively low sales, we haven't had a bump in listings for February yet.
People waiting to see what happens. Am I going to list my home? Am I going to get what I need for it? When is the best time to list it? And we've also had some really strange weather, and weather does really, when it's you don't want to have a picture of your house with snow in front of it as your primary photo, right? Or a
In
muddy
Victoria.
lawn, or yeah, it's hard to. I mean, it's winter is a hard time for showing properties. It's just not as pleasant, and if you're going through a vacant home and they don't have the heat on, you're just sitting there shivering. Just so keep your heat on, folks, even if the home is vacant.
Also, it's less daylight hours to show homes.
Exactly. Yeah. So the proof is in the pudding. We'll see what happens in the next few months. This is where we're really going to know what's going on in the marketplace. This is where the rubber hits the road.
Okay. Whoa.
Yes.
I've got the wrong title here, and I knew I was going to make one mistake because
Well, you're under the weather, and that's totally. So, of the 5 reasons that 55 plus rules have negative consequences, one is the balanced market. No, that
we
doesn't
are in
work.
a balanced market.
Yes.
Yes, we are in a, and so what that means, we're actually more heading towards the seller's market again. It says. I
Well,
don't
we
know if I
bumped
believe
up
that.
a bit. It could bump down again. I think we're probably going to stick around balanced. We definitely aren't moving towards the seller's market we saw that was just incredibly crazy. That was, back in that peak of February 2022. But yeah, we're sitting around balanced. And I think we'll probably maintain that balance for a little while. We're not going to head towards buyers. We're definitely not heading towards full sellers, but we are seeing, like, with the low inventory and buyers coming back to the table, we are seeing more multiple offers for the right properties.
Yeah, what this means though in a balanced market is longer days on market, people. So don't expect your house to sell in 1 week or in one day. You can see February 2022 and March 2021, we were over 100% in list to sales, and that is very unusual. And
Yeah,
everyone's comparing it to that.
that's when you're seeing properties selling for $300,000 over asking price in some areas, and it was just really nuts.
Okay, and I happen to love this graph.
I know.
Andrew does not.
No.
Do you want me to do it?
Yes, please.
Okay, single family homes for Greater Victoria, February 2023 was 1.113. That is very similar to January of 1.117, and it's up from February 2022 by
It's down, isn't it?
1.180. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's down. Sorry.
Okay.
Change from last year is down 5.7%.
Mhm.
In the core, the benchmark price was 1,247. This is compared to January of 1,251 and compared to February 2022, 1,321. So it's down 5.6%.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
these are ideal homes, not real homes.
This must be where I saw that stat, and I must have misconstrued the stats. We're down about 5 to 6% over last year, but over last month we're up. Okay, for pricing.
Yeah. We're slightly up. We're almost equal.
Hmm.
Greater Victoria condos at 563 for February 2023, 569 for January 2023, and this is just slightly down 1.7% at 573 from February 2022. In the core, condos were 568 200. This is down from January 2023 at 578 300 and down 2.2% from last year at 580 900. And again, I misconstrued the title.
Yeah, and I just
And then,
realized, sorry, I just wanna say I did misspeak. It looks like you're right. The prices actually from last month are slightly down, just slightly down, or mostly across the board, although they went up slightly on the peninsula for condos, and they went, up for townhouses, mostly, except in the peninsula, for some reason, they went down. It's very odd.
well, also, I think I read somewhere that these might be 2 months behind
Right, okay,
because
that goes back to the HPI. Okay, we won't get into the weeds here, but the HPI can be a little bit off
yeah,
based on how they're reporting these sales.
okay.
Yep.
And then townhouses are remaining steady, 763 in February 2023. That's pretty much equal to January at 785, 100, and up over February 2022 at 759. So we're up 0.5%. And then same within the core, we're up 2.1% from 836 to
Mhm.
819 February 2022. Okay, so the Bill 44 changes. I just found the summary. I thought it was good.
Okay, let's go over that. Sounds good.
So the sort of two major changes are the rental restriction bylaws. The bill removes the ability of strata corporations to have rental restriction bylaws, and existing rental restriction bylaws are now unenforceable. So here we are as
Mhm.
realtors, we're listing a property, and previously it used to say no short-term rentals or no whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
And we were like, what does that mean? And then, with the new ruling coming in, we have buyers saying, "Well, has the strata decided on anything?" So there's kind of been this period where we've said, "This is what the strata is talking about." So they're allowed to restrict short-term rentals.
The question becomes, and I've heard some lawyers talking about this at sales meetings and over like a number of times, Peter DeMeo is not yet willing to say what exactly is a short-term rental. Is it 1 month? Is it 3 months? What's considered short-term rental? So although rental restrictions are removed, and other than the ability to restrict short-term rentals, it's still a little unclear what is considered a short-term rental.
So I have a client who was voting on this, and they were trying to determine if it was 30, 60, or 90 days.
Mhm.
And I think they actually tabled it because they decided they didn't know.
Yeah, get lawyer opinion, get lawyers' advice. And maybe it is, I mean, if it's under a year, it's probably, and you're not, and you're signing, like, there's a difference in what you sign. If you're signing an actual tenancy agreement, then that's a tenancy. If you're doing a short-term rental through Airbnb kind of company, that's not the same as the rental agreement. So it's got more of a, you're in for a certain number of days, you're out. It doesn't automatically flow into a month-to-month tenancy and that sort of thing. And I'm not sure where the cutoff is on that. Nobody's been really clear.
Well, the other thing is short-term rentals typically, they're called transient accommodation,
Mhm.
and they're typically less than 30 days because you trigger GST if you start renting like that.
Yeah,
That's one of the issues.
yeah. And you do 30 days and then you renew it, or you renew it, or you renew it, I suppose, if you're. But yeah, so there's the ability to restrict short-term rentals, but what we're seeing still is a lot of properties, a lot of stratas, they're not going to go out and immediately change their bylaws and wipe all the old restriction bylaws from their paperwork. So it can be a little confusing for a buyer when they're buying a property and reading through the bylaws, and all the different elements of the bylaws, like, pets and so forth. And now, there might be an old age restriction. There might be something that says we're adult oriented, which, I mean, that's more of an intention and it's not a bylaw, but still, these are bits of information that you'll want to be aware of, because just because the government has removed the ability to legally restrict doesn't mean that you won't be buying into a building that may be unwelcoming, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is when you read through these bylaws, what you're seeing is the history of the strata, and so it affects how you're going to perceive moving in. So I've actually lost a sale, even though the um, the rule, and they're actively voting that they're going to maintain the no age restriction.
Mhm.
But because previously it had a 19 plus, the buyer decided not to go in because they just perceived this. So
Yeah,
the um,
I
the
think
owner is actually trying to get rid of that bylaw.
I think I may have mentioned this before, but I had a phone call from someone who was living in a 19 plus building, has a son that they live with that's over 19, but younger, 20. And then the building, because of these new rules, they were concerned about the removal of the rental restriction, because they were both age restricted and rental restricted. And they said, well, let's move this to 55 plus, because then if we still have to allow rentals, but it can only be people over 55 moving in, and they'll be maybe more mature and more quiet and able to take care of the place. So this person was concerned about their property values. And I said, like, you can't sell now while this is on the table, um, without a buyer being concerned about what is going to get voted in. Who are you going to sell to? The 35-year-old couple that want to have children are not going to buy in this building when there's language in the strata document saying we're considering a 55 plus vote.
Yeah.
Um, so
And so I had a client call me, and he was advised by 3 realtors, or their strata was advised by 3 realtors by
mm,
having a 55 plus that they would have a high-end buyer come in.
I don't think that's at all true. I mean, let's disagree with those. That's 2 against 3 at this point, right? You disagree, right?
I said
So
I said, "Absolutely no way that's true."
no, most people who are buying into 55, well, a lot of people buying into 55 plus buildings are income restricted. They may be on pensions. They may have a down payment, a large down payment, but they don't have the income to qualify. Unless you're in a higher end building, you don't tend to get a lot of the age restricted 55 plus buildings are, older and not well cared for, because the folks aren't concerned about their resale value. They're just concerned about living in there economically over the years.
I
And they're
think,
not going to be buying, getting new windows and new balconies and
to
new
be
interior.
honest, I
Hmm?
think the reason why they were voting that way
Hmm.
was actually not for the buyer, it was for the noise.
Yes.
Because they were, an older unit, and after they moved in, it was discovered that you could hear everything between the floors.
Yes. And you find that often with the older buildings. And that's why they often restrict, again, age or rentals, because they know that an owner occupier is going to be held more accountable, I guess. They, look at their neighbors and say, I've got to live with these folks. Whereas a renter is more
Yeah,
transit,
transitory,
whatever.
and that
Trans-
is not as invested in the property.
no.
And, I remember when we went to the professional development, and, that lawyer was talking about, why people were moving to 55 plus, and it wasn't because they wanted 55 plus.
No.
It was because of noise.
Yeah. Noise and care of the common property, because and having strangers coming and going more often, more people moving in, moving out. These are all things that you get more with a building that has more rentals in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just move on to the, um, lending rates. So lending rates moved up, I believe, 8 times over the past year, and they went up to 6.45. What are you I'm hearing that they're gonna remain steady. Are you hearing that?
Well, so I mean, folks, we talk to mortgage brokers as part of our, you know, not day to day routine, but we talk to mortgage brokers through our work, and we hear mortgage brokers at our sales meetings. The mortgage brokers I've been hearing from at our brokerage, everything I'm hearing is that um, the expectation
Status
is that the
quo?
rates will go down in 2020. Well, and also what the news is also putting out, 2023, 2024, 2024, we should start seeing rates starting to come down, if they're having the impact that the bank wants to have. I don't think we're going to go back to the rates we saw in the past, though.
I think if well, I think personally, if you start to see the fixed rates coming in lower than the variable rate, then that's a bet from the bank uh, that the rates are gonna come down.
Yeah, the bank will offer you a fixed rate lower than the variable because they know they can lock you in for a longer period of time on that fixed rate. And they're assuming that the rate's going to come down low enough that they would lose money if you stayed on variable.
Yeah.
So, so when they start to offer fixed rates below the variable rate, it's because they're putting in a bet that they're going to make more money that way.
Yeah, and we're starting to see that, so I think that will happen.
Yeah.
I had one client lock in for 10 years at 3.1 or something. And I was like, "That's a great idea."
Mhm. It is. Considering we're probably not gonna see those lower rates again, and that's a great rate. You pay a little higher if they had the option of a lower rate at the time, they would be paying higher at the time, but that's the bet you make, right? And some people, I've actually been thinking about this myself because we're on a variable rate mortgage, and there's a certain amount of stress not knowing every month what your payment is, and is there enough in the bank. If it's fixed rate, okay, this is my payment every month at this time, it's this number, make sure the money's in the bank. But when there's a bump in the interest rates, it changes everything, so you've got to keep sort of track of that, and it's just one more thing to sort of, some people, their stress levels, they just want that consistency of, like, I know what I'm paying, I know it's not going to change for 3 to 5 years or 10 in that case. So even though I might lose some money over time by maybe paying more interest than others, I know I can manage this now, and I probably will be able to manage this for 10 years. So
The way I looked at it when we were on, variable rate, I think we are like point prime minus point something, 75, and we have, a variable rate at our house, and I was when we were paying so little, I was like, "Oh my god, we're so lucky right now."
mm,
I didn't look at it as this was gonna be the norm for the rest of my life.
no, and the thing is, make those when you do have those times, and it can be hard. But if you're stretching just to make it work when the interest rates are that low, and this is why the government put in the stress test, which was getting qualified at a higher rate than was existing if possible to get. Um, you really want to, yeah, you want to be making sure that you can make your payments, and you just be, yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying, Jane?
What the government was trying to do is it was putting in a buffer so that when the interest rates went up, you'd be okay.
Yeah, yeah,
They were trying to figure out your gross debt service ratio at a higher rate.
yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying not to talk much today, folks. Giving me a headache.
Oh God, Jane, I'm so sorry. Did you come back from your trip sick, or did you get sick on your trip, or how did this come about?
Oh, I went to a conference. There were 9,500 people at this REMAC conference, and,
Super spreader event.
maybe I actually think I probably got sick on the plane on the way down. There were people
Mm,
coughing and sneezing.
yeah,
Anyway, but it's okay. You know what? I went there for a reason, and it's all good.
excellent, good.
It's all good. Okay.
Have we got anything more to talk about today? Are we?
No, we just wanted to tell you guys we have our show on every Monday, so please tune in.
Yes, please do. Yes.
Do you have any needs and wants?
Yes, I need either an income producing, like, hmm, in the West Shore, under 1 million or just above, a house with a nice two-bedroom suite, because the owner will be living in the suite, or a three-bedroom, two or three-bedroom sort of condo. The owner will just buy that. I need a number of different. I need half duplex in sort of a Esquimalt area, or single family home cheap. A couple of different examples. I need cheaper single family homes. I could use so many of those right now. Um, I could use a townhouse in a gated community, three-bedroom townhouse in a gated community, preferably with views under 1.4. Um,
So like Arbutus, what's it called? 2829 Arbutus Drive.
or yeah, that actually is a good thought. I'll look into that one for them, because that's a good option. They were asking for some out in Brentwood that had caught their eye, but this would be, yeah, Arbutus would be a good option. The ones in
Awesome.
Brentwood only had 2 bedrooms. They need three.
I have um I have a couple of listings active right now. I have a one bedroom on Yates, which is at 524.9, which is a
Mm,
beautiful we've just recently done some upgrades to it, including a new fireplace. We have a new listing at 777 Harold Street, which is also a
nice.
one bedroom with gorgeous views. It actually has unusual views north of the city. So you see Vic West all the way to Mount Ptolemy, 180 degrees. Um, and that one's at 597. And that building is incredible. Like all the extra amenities it has with the spa and like, well, not spa, but it has sauna, yoga room,
Mm.
workout room, beautiful common spaces, including a fully equipped kitchen and entertainment area.
Which
What
building is
else?
this again?
777 Harold.
Okay. Okay.
I have a new listing coming up on Hillwood, which is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home. It's about, it hasn't been measured yet, but maybe like 2,700 square feet. It has views of Mount Doug and the ocean, and in Broadmead, it's on a very sunny lot, which is unusual. So that'll be probably around 1.5. And then I have another listing coming up in Arbutus Ridge, and that's a view home. And we're just getting it measured, and that'll be over $1 million,
We're
less than
talking
2. I'm not sure yet.
up in Cobble Hill area. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
And that's a gated community if anybody's
Yeah,
interested in that.
yes. Actually, and that's another one to maybe consider if they're willing to go a little further. Okay, so yeah, and I've potentially got a 3-bedroom townhouse coming up, Cook Street area near Spencer Castle kind of area, and house in Vic West coming, and some other stuff. I just sort of need to find something in order to open it up, and there's a couple other logistics happening before they come available. So we shall see.
Everyone always thinks that it happens super quick. The whole, uh, I want to buy a house. Let's get in there. It takes a long time, folks, for people to get their houses ready. So if you want to get in touch with an agent, you really need to get in touch with them before you want to sell, because we can help you decide what are the important things that need to get done.
There's a lot of things that you might be doing that some things you might be doing are a waste of your time and energy, or it might be that something that will be taken care of. Other things might just be, we can give some guidance and really help you to, move things forward in a better way, or we may have some good connections to be able to connect you up with someone to come remove junk or whatever. Definitely bringing us in early. We'll advise you, we'll give you some feedback about what's required, and then talk about timelines. Most people don't understand just how much time it takes
Yeah.
to do it right. I mean, I always tell people I can list your home tomorrow if you come to me and say I want it on market, but nobody will be proud of it. It won't look good. It won't have great photos. I mean, I'll have to take them with my camera, which just don't ask me to do that. If you insist on it, it might have to happen. But come on, let's give everybody time to do a good job, because you hamstring us if there's not enough time and not enough consultation.
So what's it say? Good, fast, or accurate? You can't have
Yeah.
all three.
No.
It's
Yeah.
true. Okay. So
Do it
Andrew,
fast, do it cheap, or do it right. Pick two.
yeah.
Yeah.
How do people get in touch with you, my darling?
Thank you. Well, call me or text me to 5360 6106. Email me, info@andrewplank.com, or check out my Instagram, Plank Andrew, and go to the website, andrewplank.com, which has lots of resources and has copies of this. If you want to grab a coffee, I do have, send me an email. I'll send you a reply with my coffee schedule, and we will set up for a meeting. You just go into Calendly and book it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. If you want to reach me, text me, because I'm not talking very much these days.
I forgot to put this in front of me. Sorry, everyone. Jane.
250-744-0775. Or you can reach me at briarhillgroup@gmail.com. My website's briarhillgroup.com. And we have a website called victoriarealestateshow.com. I'm on Instagram as well as at realty teacher _remax _Victoria and Vancouver Island Luxury Living. All right, you guys.
Jane is more famous than I am.
Whatever. Andrew is one of my best friends.
Oh, thank you, Jane. I love you too. She's my real estate sister.
All right, guys, have a great week. We'll see you here. Wait. Don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, thanks, Jane. That's great. Good move.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.